Wow, so we're here. Welcome to Real Black. We're at the 15th anniversary screening of Jay-Z Unplugged.
And welcome to my living room.
Yeah, Jaguar Wright joining us from Texas. What part of Texas?
I live in DeSoto, Texas, in Dallas County, about 15 minutes from downtown Dallas.
Okay, but long time Philadelphia. And Damon, Dizzy Fingers Bennett, who I should say, and both of you guys are my friends, so I really appreciate you doing this for us tonight. So yeah, 15 years ago this month, you guys were in New York performing with the Roots and Jay-Z. I mean, what, Damon, I mean, you just watched it just now, experienced it again. What memories do you have of that night? How does it come back to you?
Oh man, that was a whole lot going on that during that time in a lot of different ways. November the 19th was my girlfriend's at the time birthday, and almost just like this, it was. I didn't find out about it until not that long beforehand, and we had planned our weekend, because it was actually on the weekend. We had planned our weekend and so on and so on. And what happened was like, Questlove from the Roots, me and him go back to high school, and Larry Gold, who was on cello and did the string arrangements and so on and so on. I was doing a lot of work in his studio, and like I was cool with everybody and okay play and all this kind of. Everybody lost my phone number. They were looking for me for like a month, and I just normally, if I'm not playing, I'm not hanging out. You know what I mean? This one time I decided I think I'm just going to go down to the 5 spot and just hang out for the Black Lily. And everybody freaked out. We've been looking for you. We're doing this thing like Friday, yada yada yada. You know what I mean? And so, at first, when I told my girlfriend at the time this is what's going on, I literally had to tell her about 5 or 6 times I'm going to be with the Roots and Jay-Z on MTV because. You know what I mean? And then after a while, like in the middle of her screaming, she was like. You know what I mean? Yeah, but that day, like we got there the day before, literally did one rehearsal. You know what I mean? So when you listen to that and you hear like there's a lot of things that's going on, we picked apart the records, and there are a lot of the parts from the actual records that are being played, and you hear. We kind of injected like for example during the takeover when the cast that Jay-Z was dissing, we used part of his songs, and then one of the other songs we switched into the Carl Thomas, you know what I mean? And it's like all of that was done pretty much with one rehearsal. You know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Jaguar, what are your memories?
I mean, I wish I had as cute a story as Damon has. My story is, much more of watch it back management fam. Like he's lucky. He just, you know what I mean? He got picked up. He got hired for the gig. I had to slave for everything. So, I was pregnant. If ever I need to remember when we actually filmed, all I have to do is, rewind back or fast forward 6 months. It's like, oh yeah, my son's 14 and a half. Yeah, we did Unplugged. Because I was pregnant. I had just got finished doing my Coca-Cola commercial for the new Soul campaign. I was mad tired, but I worked all the way up until I was 9 months pregnant, and flew back from LA, and then I got a phone call from Amir, was like, hey, what are you doing today and tomorrow? And I'm like, sleeping. And he was like, you sure about that? And I'm like, why? We need you to come up to New York because, we got to find somebody that can sing all these samples, and we can't find anybody that can do it. And I'm like, are you serious? I'm like, I don't know if I feel like it. Come on, Jag. I was like, all right, well, how soon do I have to be up there? In like an hour and a half. Oh, so like right now I have to be in New York. Great. And I called up my now ex-husband / arch nemesis to let him know that I think I got to go to New York. I know I just got home, but I got to go to New York and do Unplugged with Jay-Z and the guys. And well, how much you getting paid? Well, I'm sorry, I just got home. Like, I haven't really discussed what my salary is, but you know what? I'm just going to work, and I'll holler at you, homie. And I took a cab. Actually, no, because I was living up City Avenue. I took the R5, or is it the R6, to 30th Street. I went to FYE. I bought every Jay-Z CD that they had in stock. And I bought a Discman. Go to show you how long ago that was. They were still selling Discmans. It was a Sony, though. And I got on an Acela Express when they first started running. And I just studied every song for the time that I had. And then I walked into rehearsal, and everyone was there, and Damon was there, and Mary J. Blige had just got finished rehearsing. I missed all of that. You know, God is good. He works in mysterious ways. And, you know, they were like, all right, Jag, this is what we want to do. And I'm like, okay, what do you think for vocal arrangement? I think this, I think that. And went back to my hotel room, Bryant Park, went to sleep, woke up the next day. Makeup, wardrobe showed up. My ex-husband showed up. I went to work at MTV Studios. I came in, I got dressed, sat down for sound check. And am I missing anything, Damon? I don't think so. And
yeah, that's pretty much.
Yeah, we did the run through, and then everybody heard what I was going to do. A lot of people were a little upset that a lot of the parts that I was going to be singing came early in the show. Because I mean, the truth is, everything ended after we did Heart of the City. Everything was just coast from there. We stopped working once we got to Heart of the City.
Can I interrupt you for a second? Can I interrupt you for a second, Jack? The thing, that concert was done, first of all, the room, the TRL studio was about as big as this room. And I was amazed that it looked like on TV, it looked like there's 1,000 people, but it was probably only about 30 or 40. And so we're going through the show and so on and so on, and we've already rehearsed that Jaguar was going to have her big solo moment on Heart of the City. And when we rehearsed it, I think it kind of happened organically. I think she just kind of went for blood, and we all had to kind of, you know what I mean, take a break. Like, we literally took a break after that.
Yeah.
And
so the way the show's performed, you took breaks in between each song, and
no, I'm saying this is at the rehearsal. Like, we rehearsed, okay, you know, and then something just happened organically, and Jaguar just kind of took over the end. Then we said, okay, well, that's what it is, okay. So, but I'm saying even at the rehearsal, it was that kind of spiritual and emotional high that we had to literally take a break and then get back onto the rehearsal. So on the show, my friend Jag does it again, but even bigger than what it was at the rehearsal, to the point where the energy was just so intense that we literally had to stop and take a break at the actual show. You know what I mean? And
they had to make the audience stop applauding because they wouldn't stop.
Yeah.
And they said,
like, really,
we got to keep. We have a schedule. We have to keep. We have a schedule. We have to keep. They wouldn't stop clapping. It was like one of those really awesome moments. You know, everybody wants to go to work and have a great day at work. That was mine. You know.
And I'll just fast forward again. So at some point, she does. You know, she has this make the song cry, which is vibe-wise. It's a very sweet song, and it's very sensitive, and she does the exact same thing to them on Make the Song Cry, with the exact different vibe, but just bringing that kind of emotion out of people. You know what I'm saying? And when Jay-Z when he was like, yo, I went there, it was literally because of what Jag, you know what I mean? Like she literally took him in a whole different place where whatever he wrote about, he was reliving that moment, and he had to, at that point, say, okay, I mean, the part that got edited out was him saying, I need to take a pause for a second.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's deep. So basically, other than these little breaks, the show was done in real time. Was it filmed twice, or was what we see on the tape?
Yeah, that was it. We ran through it, and I think we might have had to stop for a few minutes for them to reload the tape.
We had to stop about twice and then pick up certain things.
Yeah, I mean, but it was literally because because.
But yeah, we pretty much ran the show, and then we only had to redo the things that
because they
wanted to get extra shots on, or they wanted to have different audio on, because they were filming video and they were filming, live recording at the same time, and they were mixing the show down as they were recording.
And literally the
You know,
stops were because most of the stops it was because they were literally recording the tape. So they was like, oh, we need to reload tape. So some things
Yeah.
got kind of missing in the changeover.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, so I guess two things I want to talk about. Let's talk about the time. I mean, this is 15 years ago. It's the Roots. It's Jay-Z. I remember like Jay-Z. He had like a famous line. One of his songs, like he said he would dumb things down. So he could. But I'm paraphrasing. But then when he had the opportunity to work with the Roots, it just seemed like, wow, this is like the complete fusion of something.
Yeah. What Amir told me was that MTV got in contact with Jay to do it. And the whole concept of the Unplugged is you see these artists, and sometimes they're like rock bands or they're pop bands, and there's a lot of the production is, like large orchestras or a lot of computers and stuff like that. But Unplugged is literally they want to take all of that out, and you can see these, these artists in a more acoustic environment. And so with that in mind, they know they have to do it with a live band. And Jay-Z being the kind of person he is, he's like, well, I have to have the best. And there were a couple of, like LL Cool J had it Unplugged. And the results on that was kind of mixed because he had like, the band was good, but these guys weren't like, they weren't, they sounded like they were like jazz musicians or R&B or they played gospel or something like that. So Jay-Z was like, I need cats who can do that hip hop thing. So there's only one cat that you can call. You have to call Amir. So then he puts together, and so from there, he's got his core crew, which at the time was Ben on the guitar, Hub on bass, then Kamal on keys. And then he adds the other pieces. So one of the other guy that kind of looks like him with the big hair was actually a drummer. He was playing with the Jazzy Fat Nasties, but got him to do percussion.
Aaron Draper.
Yeah,
Aaron Draper.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean.
Aaron.
And then and then Scratch. And I have to say a blurb about Scratch too because this is supposed to be with no electronics. When they were doing the doom what that joint. Because
ain't no nigga like
yeah.
Okay.
So that song where they sampled from, it has a guitar on it with the wah-wah pedal. So then it was like, how are we going to do this because we can't use the electronics? And out the clear blue sky, you hear something go wah, 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 and we're like, well, who has this damn guitar? And it's Scratch.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I miss Scratch.
Oh my goodness, because this dude is like he's literally like the boy Michael Winslow, like the sound and stuff like that was coming out of this. So all of the scratch and the sound effects and stuff like that
you got to shout out to everybody from the Human Orchestra. I mean, that was the time when Philly was growing up in New York.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you're going to talk about Scratch, you also can't forget Kenny Muhammad, and you can't forget, Rozelle, and you can't forget DOA, and you can't forget M&R, and you can't forget the Human Orchestra, you know what I mean? And I think the cool thing about that moment was that Scratch got to represent all of them. And even though all of them weren't a part of the show, like they were at all the shows at Bowery Ballroom that we did, back in the Urban Organic days, back in the Things Fall Apart days, back when hip hop was pure and people weren't worried about, what they were wearing and where they got, where they lived, what their address was. When we were just in it, for the van and for the stage and for the soundboard. I miss Scratch.
Oh my goodness.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So all this. Well, you guys Black Lily. So what is a rehearsal like? I mean, when you show up, who's the musical? Is Amir the musical director?
Yes, he was the music director.
So he pretty much. I mean, what's I've never sat in on a rehearsal with the Roots. I've been in sessions, but I've never seen how he's able to put the whole songs together so quickly.
You want to
it's a process. I mean, if you don't mind me speaking, Dane, I lived with these dudes for 5 years of my life. My young adult years, we lived together. Like literally, we lived on the same tour bus. We were always on the road. When we came home, in Philadelphia, we lived on St. Albans. Like, we all lived within 2 or 3 blocks of us. People used to joke and say that we were a cult. And to a certain extent, they were right, because all we did was eat, sleep, and consume what we wanted to be, what we wanted to emote, what we wanted to project. I can tell you right now, nobody can really dictate the way Amir Questlove Thompson musical directs the show, because he never really stops living the show in his head. He's constantly piecing together playlists of how shows should go from sunup to sundown. I think that's why he started DJing, just to be able to get some of that stuff out of his head, and having somewhere else to leave it other than on stage. Amir is a walking playlist. Like, that's just what it is. So, there would be times we would have a playlist for a show, and Amir would change his mind last minute. No, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. We're going to take this, we're going to take that. There was a whole argument about how long we were going to play Ether. You know what I mean? In the Unplugged show, and, and then go into the takeover, and which way we were going to do it and how we were going to flip it. And, we wanted to stay with Ether a little bit longer than we did, but Amir was like, no, it's got to come out here. It's got to be clean. It's got to be this, He's always counting the bars. He's always doing the math, That's part of being a real musician, a real musical director, a true conductor of hip hop, So yeah, that's how the set list, it happened in his head. It probably happened 6 months before that show even happened. He was probably thinking about what he would play if he ever got a chance to play for Jay-Z, and then the chance just came. It really is just that simple, We are what we do. We breathe and we eat and we live what we are. So, don't expect any real intellectual, eloquence and, well, the set list came together and there was a vote and we all decided. Nah, it really was a lot more rudimentary and primitive than that. It just all happened in his head.
Mm-hmm. And there's just one other side of that too, because part of being the music director is the arrangements and so on and so on, but there's that administrative part of it too, in terms of knowing who can do what and who are the best people to bring out for certain things. So, so that's why it's like you have Jag on vocals or whatever, because she's somebody that can, because there were points where you kind of had to turn around and be like, is this actually the record playing? You know what I mean? When it was her, and then saying, okay, well, Larry Gold is the person to put the strings together, and then calling me for flutes, because it's like I'm going to do weird stuff. Like, I don't know if you noticed, like I was playing literally it's a like an African meditation flute on a takeover. Like, I'm the only person in the world that would do some crazy mess like that. You know what I mean? So part of it is not just making the arrangements and so on and so on, but knowing who to get to do what the specific jobs to.
No, I mean, this really is a very special moment in hip hop history. And the fact that it basically, unless you were there and you taped it the night of, or you went through some download source, it's not easily accessible.
Yeah, they got stingy with it.
And they didn't release it on video or DVD or anything. So it's still.
They make it hard, don't they?
Yeah, well, Viacom, they take stuff down. They have it all coded. So even if, I'm sure hundreds of people have tried to upload this, but it comes down immediately. So it's just one of those things, and the CD is out there, and it leaves things to your imagination, and you can certainly listen to it on Spotify. But it really, I mean, to me, this is a very special moment, not just because it's like Philly in it and stuff, but it's a pinnacle of, like you're just talking about the musicianship, the artistry of it. Also, Jay-Z, really, I consider this at his peak moment, right after the Blueprint, and then also
that moment defined him. Mm-hmm. Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah, absolutely.
That moment redefined him. MTV Unplugged took him from a street hustler, drug dealer that used to run with Big L, who got a break when a bunch of people died. That moment redefined him. It made him a world-class artist. That has never happened for an MC, ever. Not LL Cool J, not nobody. No pop darling, no favorite. It redefined him. Literally, people, it washed Marcy projects off of him in an hour. The next thing you know, the next time he did something anywhere near close to it, he did it with Linkin Park.
Yeah, and then from there, like he did a
Like,
concert. I
these
want to say at
moments
like the Lincoln
don't
Center
mean
with an orchestra.
everything
You know
that
what I
they
mean?
mean.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's I mean, it's funny. Like even when I go back and someone called me up one time and they went on YouTube and they happened to catch Unplugged for a bit before when they let it up, and then right before they snatched it down again, and 13 years later, people are rewriting the liner notes, talking about how I had a strong performance as a background singer, but Mary J. Blige stole the show. Nigga, please. Get a life.
Can I hold on? Jag, can I tell that story, please? Can I tell it?
Part of the city.
I knew this was gonna happen, but I didn't bring it up.
Jag, can I tell that story, Jag, please?
Walked on stage. So if people need,
Wait, hang on. Damon's got you covered. Damon's got your back. Damon's got your back. I mean, Queen.
Oh my God.
Damon's got your back. All right, you tell the story.
Yo,
but
one of the other
at the end of
things.
the day, this was an awesome performance. None of it could have happened, without anybody that was there. Every last one of us had a job to do that day, and we did it pristinely. If Damon was missing, that show wouldn't have been the same. If Larry was missing, that show wouldn't have been the same. If I was missing, I think we understand. You know what I'm saying? If Scratch was missing, that show wouldn't have been the same. If Kamal hadn't have played and James Poyser had a subbed for him, that show wouldn't have been the same. Right. That show was everything that it was because 15 people who spent their day and night, eating, living, breathing music, got called last minute to do a job with no real preparation, and we just did what we do. And it changed the entire perception of a street corner rapper who is now one of the biggest entrepreneurs in the music industry. Mm-hmm. Let's not get it messed up. That moment defined everybody's life.
Preach. All right, but Damon has some. He's got your back. Trust me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what kind of trouble I would get into to tell this whole story, but I'll.
You don't have to.
Yeah. So, but I'm gonna just say it.
Guy.
Yeah, but I'm gonna just.
Guy.
But I'm gonna just say it. But I'm gonna just say it like this. There twice at rehearsal, and then twice on stage. Jaguar Wright murked to the point where everybody had to take a break and get back to the show. Mary J. Blige got applause.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad I had enough left over for her.
And I'll just leave it at that.
She needs to use those at her next promotional show.
And
that new song is whack. I don't care what anybody says. You shouldn't have put me on camera. I was drinking whiskey this afternoon. Anything's possible. What can I say? I live in Texas now. I drink whiskey with white people.
At one point, when we were, this was about 5 minutes before we were about to go to places, Jags walked by me and says, "Damn, I'm gonna kill it tonight." And that was it. You know what I mean? Like I said, I'm not going to get into the whole story, but she just looked at me and was like, "I'm going to kill him tonight."
Okay,
you know what I mean?
Alpha Blood. But I mean, that's the whole Philly thing anyway. I mean, and it's a New York Philly collab, and you're going to show and prove. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was a very groundbreaking thing on so many different levels. Because
Damon Bennett, do you know who you are?
Yeah.
You're the guy.
I'll put it to you this way.
Played the flute on Unplugged.
I'll put it to you this way.
Oh my God, that's the guy that played the flute from Unplugged.
Yo, let me tell you, I got a call from Larry Gold because at that time Timbaland was doing a lot of recording in his studio, and he was working on. It might have been like a Canadian artist or something. It was something really weird that you wouldn't think that Timbaland. It was like it almost sounded like a Whitney Houston kind of a song or something like that.
He was writing for Nelly Furtado. He just hadn't told anybody then.
And so
it was the demo sessions for her
album. Yeah, that might have been what it was. Yeah, so but Larry had called me and he was like, "Yeah, bring your flute and bring your recorder." I'm like, "All right, cool." And I come in the studio, open the door. Timbaland looks at me and goes, "Oh shit, that's the boy that played with Jigga."
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, "You Timbaland." You know what I'm I'm saying? Yes, and pretty much every Omar, who's the guy who's playing the organ, he's the glasses and the big hair. Like he went on to play. Like he went on to play with Jay-Z some more, and he played with an ensemble with Common.
One of my babies.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean that leads into another question. So after this experience, did you guys get to play on more live dates with Jay-Z, or?
I did.
Yeah. Some of the guys did. I didn't, but for me, what wound up happening is that, like, if you noticed that for a few years after that, it was a bunch of hip hop songs that had flute on it. You know what I mean? And I didn't play them all, but it was just kind of interesting that a lot of these cats decided that they needed to have flute in their songs, and I wound up getting a lot of session work, and there were people who would like call Amir or call Larry Gold Studio and be like, yo, we need that boy that played on that Jay-Z joint. So I wound up being on a bunch of different records, like you know, and a lot of times, like I did a session, and this was the weekend that the All-Star game was in Philly. I did like an all-day session. I did an all-day session with Rodney Jerkins, and all I did, like he had these songs where he programmed the flute just to have me come in and replay. So I was literally in the studio with him for like 7 hours, just you know what I mean? And if any of that stuff wound up coming out, I have no idea. But I know one thing: from time to time, when I look at these little ASCAP checks and stuff like that, I'm like, you know what I mean? Like, yeah. So like I said, I know for me personally, even though, like I had some people that were saying to me like, oh, you ain't get paid nothing, you know, you did that for free. And I'm like,
we got paid a lot,
but you know,
we got paid a legacy.
Exactly, and you know, and I'm still literally getting work and getting session work from, you know, from that kind of exposure. So yeah, I think that union rate at that union scale at the time was we would have gotten like $400 or $500 for it. But trust me, I've made way more than that. And just to be able to walk into a room and Timbaland know exactly who I am, priceless.
Can I speak on that right quick,
Absolutely.
Damon, before we move on? I just need to, you just brought up another point. I don't even know if you realize how fundamental the point you just brought up. No, we didn't get paid all crazy for Unplugged. Nobody did. It was an MTV show. It was a union show. We got paid our union wage. There's a lot of people nowadays that would have turned down that opportunity because they wasn't getting paid their rate, you know. And it just cracks me up how very prima donna-ish people have become in this business, because people don't act like they have to earn it. You know, you have to earn it. You know, if you don't see the value in the legacy that you're building for your career, you know, then it really doesn't matter what you're getting paid, because you're really getting paid nothing. You know, if it doesn't add up to a legacy, if it doesn't add up to a catalog, if it doesn't add up to over 400 hours, this is your life. This is what you did. If it doesn't add up to that, then it really doesn't mean anything. It's nothing but a gold chain that somebody can snatch, or a car that's going to depreciate that you're going to crash next time you snort too much coke or get drunk. You know, it's like, it's nothing, you know, and I love the fact that people like myself and like Damon can sit here and we can talk about, you know, how he had to break a date with his girlfriend, or I had to schlep my way, you know, from Philly to New York pregnant after standing on my feet for 15 hours shooting a commercial. You know what I mean? Like, all of these people who have all of these high standards in which they won't work, and all these things that they won't do if they ain't getting a rate because they need some receipts. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's so funny when I hear people, oh, well, you ain't got no receipts. Nigga, I'm not a purchase, I'm a person. You know what I mean? Like, you know, you need receipts for purchases. I'm a person. You know, but that's cute though, really cute. You know, it's
well, yeah, it's a powerful moment.
It's just amazing. It's just amazing, you know, just to think.
It's a powerful moment. I mean, we're 15 years.
Questions.
Jag, we're 15 years in on this, and we're at a stage now, 2016, where, you know, our memories, our experiences, our culture is now history. It's other people's
It is.
nostalgia. You know, people, you know, the same way I guess in the early 2000s, people would you'd have to go all the way to Japan. Like, well, Amir was the king of going to Japan and getting all the Soul Trains and things like that. I mean, a lot of this stuff is more accessible, but this is, you know, people, Straight Outta Compton is out. People are making documentaries about your peers. I mean, what does it feel like? I mean, how do you put in perspective the fact that your early years are now other people's history, other people's touchstones?
I think
Well, you know, anybody who knows me knows that I've been doing this since I was a kid, since I was 13, getting ready to turn 40. So I've been doing this a grip. It feels good to know that I lived long enough to see it. I can think of a lot of people that I started out with that ain't here, that didn't get a chance to live. Either the business killed them, or the streets killed them, or their insecurities. And, you know, so I'm grateful that I'm here to see it, that I get to see history repeat itself, that I get to listen to albums like To Pimp a Butterfly by Kendrick Lamar, or Malibu by Anderson .Paak, and hear my childhood riddled all through it, and these kids are in their 20s. You know, that feels good to me. It also lets me know that it's time to go back to work, because where there is nostalgia, there are revenue dollars. And not only that, it's also reminding me of the fact that, you know, maybe it's time for us to stop worrying about how much we perform and looking at monetizing our intellectual experiences. I've touched more than 2/3 of the business over the course of the past 40 years in my lifetime. My memories mean more than most people's albums do. I was in the studio listening to the beats being made for Ready to Die. I heard Biggie Smalls beats before he did, because I was sitting in D&D studios writing with my writing partner Teflon from MOP, Masked Out Posse, while he was making the What. You know what I mean? To be able to say that I heard Biggie Smalls beats before he did, that means a lot, especially now, you know. So I think it's just time for our generation to start realizing that we need to start thinking about doing more symposiums, more.
He froze on us.
Understand what the drive is. They need to understand what the hustle is. Internet got them twisted. The Voice and American Idol got their head messed up. They don't understand the grind that comes with this. You don't become famous overnight. And if you do, you weren't famous. You were just food. Because they fed on your ass. Because if you look at everybody from those shows, give them about a good 4 or 5 years, they can't put a winning project together. They can't get a manager that'll manage them. They're all ate up. They're all done. But people like us, we get to keep working because we put in the work. You know, so when I see that nostalgia and legacy happening right before my very eyes, it's just time to go back to work. Every time I go see a Belle Biv DeVoe show or a New Edition show, I'm not there as a fan. I'm there as an artist, amazed that they still do all the dance steps.
Yeah.
Like they knees ain't give out on them. They killing it. You know, and it makes me hungry. It makes me hungry for me. You know, I appreciate, you know, just, I don't know, man. It's just time to go back to work, man. It's just time to give them something else to talk about 20 years from now.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, you know, but it is legacy. It is history. We respect your artistry.
It is.
And, you know, Tribe Called Quest, new album came out today. Everybody check that out.
Isn't that amazing? Have you heard it yet? It's phenomenal. I heard the whole thing. Yeah, I heard it early. Don't ask me where I got it. I'm hip hop for real. No.
They got a song on there called The Donald. Go check it out. Damon.
No, The Donald is awesome. It's awesome. It really is. It's crazy.
Yeah, no, check it out if you can. So your childhood, so to speak, is now history.
Yeah.
I wouldn't exactly call that my childhood, you know, because I was definitely a grown cat at that time. But for me, the thing that's interesting is that right after I got out of high school, I went straight in the Army. I did let me back it up a little bit. I started off pretty much being a flute player, and in my head I thought I was going to be like a Hubert Laws or like the flute player version of a Wynton Marsalis doing jazz and classical music and so on and so on.
A jazz flute? That is so metrosexual.
You know what I'm saying? Only little sissy boys play the jazz flute. For all my Ron Burgundy fans. Yeah, but you know, so I went in the Army. I went in the Army band because I was not trying to do the whole school thing or whatever. And while I was in the Army, it was like that's kind of when I started playing keys a little bit, but I really started to develop as a keyboard player and as like a producing and so on and so on. So when I got out of the Army, I felt like I wanted to come back to Philly and kind of dig my roots in and be the jazz flute player, and nobody was trying to hire a flute player to do anything. You know what I mean?
So how far did this dream extend? Did you have like headshots where you got the flute and you'd like walk around?
It ain't even get that far because nobody was really trying to do that. But I had like my little 4-track and my drum machines and stuff like that, and I started literally making beats, which kind of had me open up a studio. And I was one of like the only games in town at the time. There was only like maybe like you would either go into like Philly International, one of those big boys, or some cat that was in his basement that was going to charge you like $1,500 to do a track. And so there were only a couple of cats like myself where you can get some half decent stuff. And so I did that for a number of years, and eventually people started trying to get me to come out and go to these jam sessions. And Steve McKee, I met Steve McKee from somebody who I was looking for a drummer to sub for. To sub for a gig, met him and so on and so on, and we did this gig together. And then he was like, "Hey man, you got to come out to this jam session that we're doing," which was at the time at South Street Blues. And this is something that actually kind of predated the Black Lily. This is one of the things that maybe.
Oh, it definitely predated.
Yeah.
It was the only time the girls could actually sing.
Yeah. So for anybody who remembers, it was like New Rob was the host and Hezekiah. And so on and so on. So her band was were the cats that were doing this jam session, and
was it 1-7?
That was back when they were lo-fi.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Lo-fi.
So, and I'm gonna try to make this long story kind of short, and I'm gonna get to the point.
I think we're cool.
So,
right?
yeah. So at any rate, so there I started meeting, these people who were like. Because before like 95 or 96, there really wasn't like an underground thing. Everybody who was trying to make records, whether you were a singer or a rapper, you were trying to do what was on the radio. But this was a whole different thing that these people were doing. So cats weren't necessarily worried about like singing Shaka Khan songs. People were just kind of making up these songs on the spot and so on and so on. It was really an organic jam session in the literal sense of the word. It was like nobody was like, oh, well, Mr. Magic or, Do Me Baby or anything like that. And so from there, people started calling us and started calling me and stuff like that. And I was kind of like running around the city doing all of these different open mics, the poetry joints and so on and so on. Like I met Jill Scott when she was more of a poet, and and that was before she had the big girl voice. She was kind of singing like, you know what I mean? She was like real sweet, So meeting all of these people, like Bilal was still in high school, you know what I mean? River, oh, she can't even see. River, I don't know if the woman that was hosting, she was known for her locks. I knew her when she was in high school when she was rocking a perm. You know what I mean? So with that in mind, like I said, this was kind of at the very beginning of this whole soul thing that was popping off in Philly. And so like me, Chuck Trees.
If you really, really, really want to take them back to the gutter of it all, you can't remember the Last Drop Cafe.
Yep. Absolutely, with Rich Medina and Mike Nice, and that wasn't even with music. Like MCs
we
were
used to have
ciphering
a jam session in the basement of a coffee shop.
Yep. Cats were just in a circle, beatboxing and all that kind of stuff. So at some point, I did that for a while, and was on that scene and so on and so on. And we were experimenting with different things. We were playing offbeat, behind the beat, a little ahead of the beat, and just kind of make things fun. We were trying to do things like, because there was a way that like certain hip hop producers, you know, that rhythmically it was a little off, so we were trying to mimic that stuff live and so on and so on. I get off the scene because it was time for me to get back in the studio and work on projects and so on and so on. I get back on the scene a year or two later, all the young boys is playing like that now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So when you're talking about that legacy and that history and you know what I'm saying? Like, so from probably like 1998 or 99, I was saying, wow, actually me and some of my cats were doing something that actually affected a whole movement. And that sound that a lot of people call that the Dilla sound was actually me, Chuck Trees, Tone Whitfield, Steve McKee, cats like this dude named Lamont
Don't
Murphy,
forget Taurus Mateen and Raji Mateen.
Lawrence, this other, remember Dennis, what was Dennis's last name, the keyboard player? I can't think of Dennis. I can't think of his name now. Oh my goodness, I can't
You
think of his
talking about Ben's brother?
No, that's Ted. Yeah, but they were but anyway, but that sound that's kind of you know, like the Dilla thing was actually started by me and about maybe 10 or 15 other cats that were right here in the city. There are guys in Europe who are still making songs and stuff like that.
Well, I just want. I'm just curious now. So, I mean, where does Poiser fit in? Where does that Axis Music Group thing happen in relation to what you were doing at that time, around that time?
What they were doing was more on the recording end and not necessarily on the live scene.
Okay.
You know what I mean? But they were one of the blueprints in terms of the production companies that, you know what I mean? So if it wasn't for like Axis and Touch of Jazz especially, like Touch of Jazz really was the cats that kind of really set the mold, and then from there, you know, because James Poiser was a part of Touch of Jazz at one point.
Yeah, we just had Carvin at the last we did last weekend. But.
Yeah, so they were like the blueprint for like Mama's Boy and what Steve McKee is doing, and you know, and then there's other young cats.
Okay, but in terms of sound, and then just to frame it, and
yeah,
then, and the Roots were also, they've already recorded a few albums.
Right.
By the time
Yeah,
they're back.
but what they were doing was it was in some ways the more tamed version of what we were doing at these jam sessions and stuff
we
like
gotta find
that.
these tapes, man.
As a matter of fact, when you listen to the Unplugged, when you listen to Hard Knocks Life, and you listen to when after Mary J did Can't Knock the Hustle, and it goes into the No More, the Hateration, the Dancery song. Rhythmically, what that kind of laid back and almost offbeat vibe that we were playing is very indicative of some of the stuff that we were doing live.
Right, but yeah, I mean, just to connect the dots, Dilla had a big connection with the Soulquarians and Philly and all that stuff. So, but it was all. This is the ground zero of this. This is where it's really literally springing out of the ground. Is with
Philly is the diamond mine, babe.
So, I mean, I just want to ask if anybody has any questions. Any questions at all, or do we cover this? This gentleman's smiling. You having a good time? This is your. I don't. It just feel. I'm just happy looking at you, man. You see him too, right, Jack?
I see him.
She can see you. Yeah.
He's got the big Sunni Muslim beard.
Yes, sir. No, did you have a question or anything for Jaguar or Damon?
How long you been down Texas?
I actually officially moved here June of this year. I've been working down here for the past 2 years. I started auditioning a new life about 2 years ago. I knew I was ready to leave Philly, and I wanted to find the right place for my family. And it was funny. It was either going to be the Bay Area, LA, here, or Miami. What made Dallas the winner? DFW area has about 24 Grammy Award winners that half of them have won consecutive Grammys for the past 3 or 4 years straight in a row. It's a music superpower and they don't even know it. So that's why I'm here. Because I was at the beginning when our generation happened in Philadelphia, and everything that Philly had back. They just need somebody to show them what to do with it, and more importantly, show them not, how not to screw it all up like we did. Because it's the truth, we did. We had the heart of the world in our hand for about a good 6 years, and we screwed it up. And I just don't want to see that happen to another awesome place. Not only that, it's good down here. There's nature everywhere. There's God everywhere. There's whiskey everywhere. It's good stuff. Life is good here. I love Philly. I'm a Philly girl to the day I die, but you gotta make sure that the place that you love loves you back. Ain't no hugs in Philly right now. I need to be somewhere where me and my family can get hugged. So hopefully that answers it.
Amen. Any other questions or anybody? So here's everybody asked this question, but I just want to ask for the record. So this clearly was a magical time. Things are way different, especially in the music industry, economically. Everything has changed. But can we come back to that place again? Philly. Before your era, cultivated, there was the Philly International sound, and before that, the jazz sound. Our
American Bandstand.
Is it the legacy going all the way back to Bessie Smith, really, and probably before that? There's always been great music, great musicians in Philly.
Yeah.
Can that scene happen again here?
Well, first of all, I can't. I was lucky that I went to Overbrook High School at the time that I went, because the guy who ran the department was very connected to like everybody in the music industry. So from a very young age, like I had people involved with me like Grover Washington Jr. and the Heath brothers and Wynton Marsalis and so on and so on. So with that in mind, I always knew the impact that Philly musicians had on the industry. So right now we're at a time period where, other than like Meek Mills and a couple other artists, we don't really have a lot of artists that are kind of, like in the forefront, like with the big record deals. But the musicians and producers are all over the place. So you can't turn on an award show without seeing Philly musicians. You know what I mean? Like we have one of my, and I'm so proud of my man Eric Wortham, who's out playing with Adele. You know what I mean? We have some of the, like, at one point, Philly was known as like the land of the DJs. Now it's known as like the land of the drummers, between Amir, John Roberts, Spanky, Briz. You know what I mean? So it's like, so there's, and I don't think that that's going to change, because, I have my little cousin, younger cousin, I want to say little, but my younger cousin, his name is Mario Crew. He's currently playing with Kindred the Family Soul, and the single that's playing for them, of All My People, he produced that also, and he played almost all the instruments on that joint too. You know what I mean?
I remember when he would play gigs, and I had to tell him get his ass home. For the street lights came on.
Like really, you know what I mean? So there's, and then so there's a lot of young musicians. There's some cats that I met who were like 18, 19 years old. That there's one cat that I like literally. Kendrick got in the jam with a last minute. Kendrick the Family, so we got in the jam with a last minute gig, and I had to put some cats together, like literally, just real quick. So the drummer was like 19 years old. We couldn't even get a rehearsal with everybody. I just sat in his basement with him. 2 days later, he does the show and murders it, like he played with the band for 6 years. So you know what I mean. So the music in the schools isn't what it was, but there's so many. The music in the churches is so diverse.
Thank
It's
God
like
for
if you
Jesus.
play in a church, you playing everything. So so there's and there's a lot of singers like Lee Mo, Lauren Talese, so there's always going to be a scene here. I can't imagine it not being the scene, and there's so much talent. There's so much young talent here. You know what I mean? There's always going to be now. The question is going to be, is the whole thing going to turn around to the point where, that there's
I
a label
answer that
present?
question?
Like, you know what I mean? Go ahead.
Because Damon did such a lovely commercial for the city. I would like to leave that pristine. So rather than speaking from what I know to be a fact, let me speak from my hope. He's absolutely right. There's a ton of talent in Philadelphia. It's a shame Philly don't know it. And I'm not talking about the public. I'm talking about those who work within the actual arts community. There's such little respect that people have. Like the way Damon can sit there and he can call off name after name after name after name after name. And you would think that all of these people would be working together and working in tandem. Instead, they throw dirt on each other's names so they can't get gigs, so that they can keep all the gigs for themselves. I mean, like, let's just be honest. Philadelphia has a crab in the barrel syndrome that has to stop. It happened during TSOP. It happened before. History, it repeats itself. It's for this new crop of great artists to not do the Philly crap, to get beyond it and realize there's enough music, there's enough gigs, there's enough money, there's enough shine for everybody. And matter of fact, if we work together, there'll be more. You know, I can go down to Atlanta, I can point to you 3 celebrities that can't stand each other, but yet still they always work together, because they know the more that they bring in, the more there is for everybody else. You know, for whatever reason, Philly still feels like there's not enough. There's more than enough. We have to make that room though, and we have to teach these kids, you know, like when he talks about these young kids, I'm so glad that there are people like Damon there who make themselves available, because like he talked about Grover, I can talk about Donald Robinson, working with Donald Robinson coming up, or McKinley Horton, or, you know what I mean, my years in Philadelphia International with Uncle Kenny, and, you know, like, it's just, I can talk about that, but we were thirsty for knowledge, and they were happy to teach us. You know, we got to be better old heads. We're not better, you know, we're not the old heads that we had, you know, and a lot of these kids, they're not hungry but to be anything more than the next Meek Mills, or, you know what I mean? And unfortunately, you know, when you have artists that gain that kind of national, whatever you want to call what Meek has done to himself, it falls on the city. So when we shake off the whackness that comes from just bad judgment from a young bull who's thirsty for fame, and we can find a way to take this younger generation and connect it to our generation, because we are now the old heads. Let's just keep it all the way 100. We are the old heads. If we can find a way to bridge that gap, Philadelphia has better than a shot. It can finally come back and take the crown it so willingly gave away, trying to be one of the cool kids when we were the cool kids. There's nothing worse than the coolest cats in the room not realizing how cool they are. There's nothing worse than that. And that's all I got to say about that. Is it possible? Absolutely. We have to do something to evolve it.
Okay, well, wow. Well, you know, I really appreciate you taking the time, Jag, to share with us these memories. I mean, you know, for me, it was important.
Memories.
For me.
These are nightmares.
Well, it was important for me to look at this just in terms of the historical legacy. But you brought so much more to the experience by being generous with your. Well, we knew you were going to be candid, Jaguar. We knew you were going to be candid. Did you finish? Oh, she's gone. Did she hang up on us? Well, anyway, so I'll text her back. So we're just winding it down. So, I mean, thank you again. Any final thoughts? I mean, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing, too, which is interesting, because this was November 19, 2001. We all know what happened in September, just a few months. So this was like my first time back. I mean, a couple days before 9/11, I was in New York. I think we might have been at a Black Lily or something like that. And then, you know, the incident happened, and you know, you couldn't get in or out of it and whatnot. So it was like, I remember we were all, well, not all, there were 2 vehicles that we were traveling in, and I was in one of the vehicles with Amir, and we just kind of like coming out of the tunnel, and we kind of look out the back of the vehicle, and we just see what that that blank space, and we can still see smoke coming out of it. You know what I mean? So that, so that's something that's always etched, in my mind. Just that, like, literally to see, like, even a month and a half or whatever later, just see, just seeing that image. But and one of the commercials that got left in there was like, the rappers talking about, like,
joining together, yeah.
Yeah, but that was the context of it, because it was like right after, the whole 9/11 thing, and so it was about the country trying to come together and that kind of stuff, and the vibe that was in New York was exactly that, because New York is a place where everybody kind of comes and gets together. So with that in mind, we had it was not 9/11, it's 11/9.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
Yeah, 11/9 was Wednesday.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So, and there's, for different reasons, there's similar kinds of feelings that's coming up. You know what I mean? Because right after 9/11, it was a lot of crazy stuff that cats were doing and saying in terms of what, the Muslim community and even people who weren't Muslim, if you had any kind of rap on your head or whatever, you know what I mean? And there's some very similar things that are going on right now, like, has been going on for the last few months and all of that kind of stuff. And as hard as it may be, this is like an opportunity for us really to come together and try to heal and all of that good kumbaya stuff, because if not, just like we were in danger 15 years ago of really crumbling as a society, we're that close right now. You know what I mean? So this would be a really good time for another kind of, Jay-Z Unplugged kind of a moment or whatever, because we all know what, the healing power that music and the arts can have.
Yeah, well, just when you came in, we were showing the New Common video, so I think, well, what I was saying on the radio today, it's time. I mean, there's a lot of disposable crap out there. I don't need to name names as far as some of the music that we, you just look at the XL freshmen this year and see what I'm talking about. But, I think the fact that Tribe has a new album out, De La has a new album out, Common's back, Chris Rock is going to tour, Dave Chappelle is hosting Saturday Night Live tomorrow night. I think that it's time for Black Genius to once again reveal itself and put us in perspective. I mean, clearly, if you don't have the genius of black musicians and artists, what is the society? And, the frustration I have is that this culture just wants to wipe things out, like erase our contributions to everything most of the time, and then we allow it because we have a disposable mentality as well. So I think today was a really good day for us to come back and look at this and just see, because this is a very high. To me, this is one of the high points in hip hop history. So, and it's the fusion of it and all that stuff. So I have optimism. I think that tough times, and then I left them. I had them in the car, man. I'll draw the picture for you. So I was going through storage looking for this tape actually, and I dug out some old records. And one was a Superfly soundtrack, and one was Fight the Power 12-inch from Do the Right Thing. So you have to put yourself in the mind, like what was our culture like at the time that art was created. So maybe this kind of tension, this friction is going to make us, definitely bring us more together, but also allow us to challenge ourselves to actually make music and art that says something. So that's
and there's another dynamic to that too. It's like I remember Robert Townsend talking about the 5 Heartbeats. And he's talking to black people, and they're like, oh, we need movies where we're tired of looking like this and blah, 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 blah. So he thought that movie would address it, that nobody came out to see it. And then, it's a movie, it's a classic to us because most of us probably saw it on DVD for the first time or VHS and so on and so on. But Hollywood, what they recognize is what happens on opening weekend. So now we don't come out on the opening weekend to see the things, and they say,
Yeah,
Can't
well,
be.
well, I mean,
Yeah,
that
but you know,
can-
but what
so-
I'm just saying that to say that because to say this because even when it comes to music, they're talking about what are you requesting on the radio, what are you downloading, and so on and so on. And in a lot of ways, it's kind of like they put you in a catch-22 situation because they are controlling what they put out. So they're going to put this particular thing out, and then you'll have no other choice to buy it. And they say like, well, that's what the demand is. You know what I mean? So how you fight that is you got to call the radio stations and be like, why aren't you playing so and so? Why aren't you playing Hezekiah? We want to hear Johnny Popcorn. Why aren't you playing this? Why aren't you playing that? And if they're getting 1,000 calls a day like that, you know what I mean? And if they notice that people are not tuning into certain stations, that's one of the reasons why they have some of these stations that are popping up where it's like, oh, we play old school hip hop all day. You know what I mean? So it's like if there's certain things that you want to hear or you don't want to hear, you just have to demand it.
Well, you don't have to go as far back as 5 Heartbeats. This year alone, you had Queen of Katwe. I thought people would go. I mean, that's a beautiful film, and it's one of the best movies. But I mean, it just happens time and time again. When you put stuff out, people act like they say they want to see certain things, but then when it's presented to them, they find excuses not to support Birth of a Nation. I mean, clearly there's issues in terms of the distribution. And then, if you're conspiracy theorists, do you really trust any of the numbers? Because do you have any control? Do I know how many people are really watching my YouTube videos? Do I really know how many people actually bought a ticket to this? Are you checking your ticket to make sure that it says what you wanted to pay money to see? So, ultimately, I think unless there's an alternate distribution system, you're going to have that capitalistic factor. Whether or not artists, I think what I got from what you were saying was like the creativity came when you weren't worried about getting played on the radio, when you were just free to create and your audience was receptive and very minute. And you were able to, and my experience in Black Lily, people could make mistakes. There's a safe space to make mistakes. But if you're trying to create art with the intention of selling it, it's going to be tasty cake. It's going to be Coca-Cola. It's not going to be that. It's not going to have those special ingredients. Like where you say, I'll where you've before you brought that flute out on MTV, you knew what it was going to sound like. You knew. You had opportunities to experiment before you brought it to the stage. So I don't know. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad you're here, and it's cool that we have an opportunity to film this and reach more people around the world who are big fans of Jay-Z Unplugged, and it's just great that. Thank you for being my friend and
absolutely.
because he got paid even less to be here than he got from Jay-Z, But anytime you need me for anything, I'll be there for you. So thank you all. Please, big round of applause. Jack, never called us back.
We're better than just movies about slavery.
Okay.
We can make a movie about slavery as a comedy. We can do that. Never seen a movie. Every movie we make, you never see anything about a gay slave. They were around. Just ain't nobody played it. That'd be easy for me to do.
Okay.
And that'd be all my burlap shorts would be shredded, but they'd be neat.
When the words little and purple are in the same sentence, you can only be talking about one guy, and it's Prince. He said, yeah. He's looking for something to get into tonight, so I told Sheila to tell him to come down and check you out. And I was like, okay, cool. Obviously, Sheila E. relayed the message because he showed up.